Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today in this session on tourism. And I'm going to share with you a brief on the opportunities and the challenges we are facing in the tourism sector. You know, Pakistan is one of the most diverse and rich country in terms of potential we have, in terms of the land available, the sites, the geography, the history. And if you look at the north, we have the highest mountains. And on the south, we have the beautiful coastal line. And in between, about 3,000 kilometers of land full of history and culture. And if I just give you a glimpse of Pakistan's tourism assets, you can understand that this is the place where three great mountain ranges meet together, including Himalaya, Hindu Kush, and the Karakorums, and where some of the tallest mountains on earth are located. And this is one of the places where 5 peaks over 8,000 meters out of the 14 in the world are located. This phenomenon is only available in Pakistan, nowhere else on earth. And this is also the piece of land which has the longest glaciers outside polar region located anywhere in any one single country. More than 5,000 glaciers you can see in this one single country. And this provides us a great landscape of the wilderness of mountains where people can come for different kind of adventure tourism activities in Pakistan. And side by side, the landscape is so diverse that when you go in the mountains, you don't find mountains of the similar kind in each and every area. But there are different sort of locations where you find the Rocky Mountains like this in Hunza, which are linked through the Karakoram Highway passing through the great mountain ranges. Rather, this is the only highway in the world. While traveling on that, you can see one of the 8,000-meter peak right from the window of your car, and more than 6-7 peaks over 7,000 meters, a number of other glaciers. Nowhere else on earth you can find this kind of phenomena. And when you descend down to the lower valleys, you can see the beautiful alpine meadows, which are green, and the beautiful mountain landscape on the backside, the many different lakes. Some of them are accessible by roads. Most of them are away from the roads, and you have to trek up to the high meadows to reach to these places. And in terms of human history in Pakistan, Pakistan is again very, very rich. And in this country, you can find the civilized world history of more or less 9,000 years, starting from Mehergarh at the border of Balochistan and Sindh, and then coming down towards the Indus Valley civilization, which flourished in this piece of land about 5,000 years ago, and one of the most modern civilization of its time. And then comes Gandhara. All the way from Peshawar to the lower Swat, you find hundreds of sites which are the sacred sites of Buddhist religion. Rather, this is the piece of land from where Mahayana Buddhism spread to the rest of the world. And this is also sacred land for the Hindus. As many places, we have different historical and spiritual places of Hindu religion, including one of this, which is called Katas Raj, which is a very, very important Hindu pilgrimage site in the province of Punjab. And this is also the piece of land which is the birthplace of Sikh religion. Baba Guru Nanak was born here. He spent most of his time here. The many gurdwaras associated with Sikh history, and it is again one of the country which is the religious sites for the Sikh yatris from around the world. And above that, we have the cities, which are some of the most ancient living cities in the world, like Peshawar, like Lahore, and Multan, Bahawalpur, Uch Sharif, and many other. And especially if you travel towards south in the area of in the southern Punjab and towards Sindh, this is the land of Sufis and Shints. So the Sufism sites you can visit in this piece of land. And in between, there's the desert of Cholistan and Thapakar, which has its own history, culture, and tradition. And there are lots of historical and culturally interested sightseeing places in these areas. And mountains are not just in the north, but if you're traveling towards south all the way along the 740-kilometer-long Makaran coast. You see on one side this kind of rocky mountainous landscape, and on the other side you can see the miles and miles of sandy beaches of Makaran coast, which are all virgin to be developed for marine tourism. And most important thing for me is the living culture of Pakistan. Pakistan is one of the most diverse countries in terms of living culture in the world. More than 74 languages spoken. And we are traveling from one side to other, more or less after every 60 to 70 kilometers, the cultural landscape changes. And then the people, their food, their cuisine, their customs. And this is providing us one of the great opportunity for a touristic point of view to experience the rich culture of this country. And one of the culture which is the most ancient is the Kailasha culture in Pakistan. They are the people who came with Alexander the Great in 327 BC and now are settled in the three valleys of the Chitral. They're the last 4,000 people now left who are following this, the most ancient religion of the world. And same is the case with the rich diversity of landscape and the rich diversity of wildlife available in this landscape. From the high mountains to the marine areas of Pakistan, you find a great variety of wildlife which can be promoted as the ecotourism or wildlife tourism in Pakistan. And also the rich food and cuisine available in abundance everywhere as a great variety. And then the crafts, handmade items, and every tourist who are coming to Pakistan, they love to buy all these products on a very, very reasonable prices. And it's also a country which has a passion of cricket. Everywhere from the mountains to the coastal area, you find people playing cricket. And this is a great area where you also experience some of the most traditional games which are played in its most original form in Pakistan. And one of the game of ancient time is the polo, which is played at one of the highest polo field in the world at Shandur in the month of July, where the best polo teams play against each other at the beautiful landscape which is called the Shandur Pass. And then we have the modern city of capital, which is one of the most beautiful capital city in the world. So all this glimpse provide us a great opportunity not to promote just one kind of tourism in Pakistan, but different kinds of tourism starting from the recreation to adventure to culture tourism, the shopping, the conference, the agri, the rural, and many other different forms. So utilizing the great potential which we have, we can develop different kind of products to promote tourism in Pakistan. As the tourism industry is growing very rapidly around the world, now more or less about 1.5 billion international tourists travel from one country to other country. And it's creating economy of something about 1.7 trillion US dollar directly. And if we include indirect impact, it becomes about 7 trillion US dollar in terms of foreign exchange. In Pakistan, the number of tourists is increasing. Before pandemic of COVID, we were having 6.6 million tourists traveling to see different sites in Pakistan. Although there was a dip, but now again, it has started going up. 96% of this is Pakistani tourist market, domestic tourist, and they're good spender also. Only 4% is the foreign tourism. But still, our tourism industry is contributing handsomely in the national GDP. As you can see in this slide, even after the pandemic, when rest of the nations have been facing very, very tough time, our industry was contributing 3.7% in the national GDP. 3.3 million people are directly and indirectly employed in this sector. And 1.2 million are international arrivals, people coming from abroad to Pakistan and contributing about 138 billion rupees economy in terms of their visitor impact. So 400 billion rupees are almost invested now every year in tourism and hospitality sector development. But the potential, as I mentioned, is so rich we have in Pakistan. But to have that potential in terms of attractions, we need to work on the 4 other components of the tourism product, which is the accessibility, accommodation, activities, and amenities. The best combination of all these 4, or the 5 ways, make your tourism product more attractive and more viable and more sellable. And But side by side, we also have certain challenges. As they say, that tourism is like fire. It can cook your food, but if you're not careful, it can burn your house down. और जैसे दो धारी तलवार होता है ना, ये बिल्कुल उस तरह से है. And why? That you can understand right now in few of my next part of this presentation. For example, the tourist traffic is growing now very rapidly, especially in the summer season when you go. You find lots of people are moving on their private cars to visit various beautiful sites in the northern part. And sometimes there's so much traffic that the roads are blocked. And some incidents even happened at last time something happened in the Murray. So overcrowding is now becoming a big challenge in tourism. The more and more interested people traveling towards north and many other tourist places, which is creating negatively a bad impact on the site's protection. For example, where there were beautiful forests in the past, and now there are concrete jungles. The forests were there to attract tourists, but we have overdeveloped now, like the Murray, the Galiath, and many other places. The overdevelopment of infrastructure is creating now a negative impact on the same site which has been attracting tourists in the past. The valleys in the past was like this, but now these valleys are overdeveloped. Mushroom growth is now a big challenge for us, and this is going to negatively impact on the assets of tourism, which actually attracts tourists to these areas. For example, Swat, Kalam, Madian, Bahrain, you can see all these hotels mushrooming up along the rivers, and many of these have washed away in the floods. If we are not careful, but nature take its own revenge. I mean, many of these hotels have been already washed away because they were constructed illegally along the rivers, along the streams, and violating the laws. And this is creating the problem of even waste management in these areas, which is the negative impact on the same beautiful landscape. And even the lakes like this, the Saffron Malouk, which was a beautiful site in the past, is now overdeveloped and mismanaged like this. So even the highest places in the high mountains like K2 is now facing the wrath of the increasing number of tourists to these areas. So this is a big challenge which need a careful attention right now. We need to focus on the model which is more sustainable and more responsible. Even the historical sites are facing the wrath of over-tourism in Pakistan. Sorry, it's not working. Can you move the slide to next slide? Yeah. And the wildlife, which we haven't used so far to attract tourists, as Africa is making billions of rupees just by promoting wildlife tourism, it's now under threat because of indiscriminate killing in Pakistan without any rules and regulation. So the challenge is big because this whole thing is a kind of a phenomena which is mushroom growth. But now is the time on which we need to work on the model of a sustainable tourism. And sustainable tourism is something which meets the needs of present tourists and host communities while protecting and enhancing the opportunities for the future. It's for the long-term benefit of the assets. And in this model, you need to pay more attention on the conservation of biological and cultural diversity. You need to minimize the tourism negative impact. You need to share the socioeconomic benefit with the local people of that area where you're promoting tourism. And ultimately, you are increasing the visitor satisfaction to the highest level. So as much as you bring all these four factors close together, you'll be able to have a healthy and more sustainable and more responsible tourism. Now, the government of Pakistan has started taking interest in developing tourism on the model of sustainable lines, and various policies and plans are now being taken place. The last government of Prime Minister Imran Khan did especially very good job, and they established a kind of a national framework for the promotion of sustainable tourism. And based on that, we are now trying to develop 4 new tourism economic zones in different areas which are based on the model of sustainable tourism. One of the model is the Thandiani, which will be integrated zone, carefully managed environment, the beautiful landscape is protected, and the buildings and infrastructure will be developed in a way which is not creating any harm to the environment. And the same as the model which we are adopting near Shogran at a Ghanol. It's a new site. A whole master plan has been prepared. And the third is a Mankyal area near Kalam. This will be again a model ecotourism site. And then the fourth one is the Maragalasht on the way to Chitral near Dharosh. So these four models will set examples to have a model of sustainable tourism in Pakistan, and ultimately existing destinations will also be improved upon the same design of model on which we are working right now. So I think there are quite a lot of things going on, but at least the way forward for tourism sector, we want to have a long-lasting and more sustainable and more responsible tourism. We need to work on the awareness and capacity building of the people. We need to establish a good regulatory framework that the laws are followed. We need to develop destination management plan of each site. We need to work for the new tourist destination as these four models I have suggested. And we need to adopt eco-friendly technologies in tourism and high-tech IT solutions in tourism to make it more viable and environmentally friendly. And most importantly, we need to make our tourists more and more responsible so that when they're visiting these sites, they're not throwing garbage, they're not creating any harm to the natural environment, because the long-term viability of these sites is very, very important for the promotion of tourism. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's time to sit back and think carefully where we are going and how we need to make our tourism more sustainable. Thank you very much.